at a village, which is such a beautiful community space. I'm really honored to give the consent workshop as kind of a part of an introduction into the space, because we think that it's a great toolkit that we can embrace and practice. Also going to other workshops like the massage exchange or the play fight and the cuddle puddles, just some examples of events that are really a lot about navigating physical proximity and emotional proximity, and in order to really support you to have a really safe and comfortable and easeful and maybe nourishing and deep experience, however deep or however you want it. This toolkit really supports you in bringing more of you and your desires, your needs, and also knowing where you want to say no, where you want to maybe take a moment for yourself, just step out of the group energy for a moment, or just take a deep breath, or let go of a certain touch, and to really move into these experiences with a lot of clarity, with a lot of comfort, knowing that you can trust yourself to be able to speak up and to share what you need and what you want and what you don't want. So that's part of the idea of having this consent workshop as a free, open for all experience for everyone who's curious about Village to join and practice consent. And as said, you can come as many times as you want and combine it with other beautiful events at Village. The Embodied Consent workshop to me is really about anchoring our awareness and our attention on the physical body and feeling all the sensations that occur when in interaction with another human being or a group of other human beings, and to then, from all this information of sensations and feelings and also thoughts, co-create a space and make decisions that really feel pleasurable, comfortable, safe, and supportive to everyone involved. So that really includes a curiosity about my own boundaries and needs, as well as the boundaries, needs, and desires of the other person as well. The way I like to structure the Embodied Consent workshop is to start with a bit of an introduction round, have everyone's name in the group and their pronouns, and then to ask, what brought them here into the space, because these are people deciding to come on a Sunday lunch or noon usually to deepen their practice and knowledge and experience of consent. So there must be some intention behind why they come, and usually people have some challenges either in personal relationships and work relationships, maybe going out to a club and just feeling either invaded or overwhelmed or uncertain, or a lack of courage in expressing one's desires and needs. And so I really like to get everyone's intentions into the group, because then we can really tailor the experience also to really see what people can get out of practicing embodied consent. And that's really important to me, that the people feel heard and that they really get for what they come from when they join the workshop. So after we share intentions, we explore a little bit the theory of what does it mean to be embodied. We have a bit of a brainstorming, and I'll share my backgrounds as well, and the thoughts from psychology, from coaching, from bodywork perspective, as well as with consent as well, the definition of consent, what does consent mean, and then the workshop is about pairing those two, a sense of embodiment with a framework of consent and an energy of consent.
I'm hearing a lot the relationship with other people and the communication and the sharing of desires, of boundaries. And that's definitely things we'll look at and explore through several exercises. Just shortly, my background is in psychology and coaching as well, and in yoga. And I've really enjoyed participating in many consent workshops and learning and then crafting from that some exercises together with some embodied approaches from yoga and body therapy to really bring together the physical, the embodied part with also mental and vocal communication frameworks. So that it's really a full body consent experience and not just from the head or from the body. So that's one of the ideas of the workshop, is to really go into this full resonance, full body resonance of this is a yes and this is a no, and to experience that fully. And so we already just touched a little bit on embodied meaning having a felt connection to your physical experience at every part of the consent process. And consent process meaning the process of arriving at an agreement of what's going to happen in any given situation or interaction, both with yourself and also with the environment that we're in. So just to have those terms present, and there's a lot that we can explore around that.
And from there, we go into some body work and movement. I'll guide the group through some exercises of somatic body work, a little bit yoga inspired, as well as some intuitive elements to just really connect from the bottom up, from the feet, the legs, the hips, belly, upper body, just really feeling the body from the inside out, letting go of any everyday tension.
Roll up to stand. Good. When you're standing, just reach up, make a long spine, reach up, interlace the fingers, turn the palms up. And then inhale, reaching up. Exhale. Inhale up. Exhale. Good. Release the arms back down, keeping the eyes closed. Inhale, just bending the knees slightly, feeling into the legs, into the feet. Exhale, just standing back up.
Strengthening that bond of mind and body, from which we then transition into the first specific consent exercise, which is a nonverbal consent exercise. People can regulate the distance. There's one active role, a passive role, and the person in the active role can regulate the distance. Both people face each other, look into each other's eyes, and when the person comes closer, that will elicit a certain physical response in the body, and really noticing that, feeling that, and responding from that place, whether one wants the person to come closer or further away, and really practicing with this yes and no energy that we want to connect to inside our bodies and then project outward into our interaction and communication. And then we integrate this experience by having a sharing around, sharing thoughts, insights. Usually some dynamics and patterns come up that happen in daily life as well. And it's really helpful to explore and reflect on that as a group together. And we have a little bit of a break, and then the second part is the verbal consent practice. So it's a specific framework called desires, fears, and boundaries. And we go a bit more into depth of what does it mean to have a desire, a want, a need, and how do I express that. And then we transition from desire to fear or to vulnerability. What might feel vulnerable about that desire? How can I communicate that? And then boundary. So what's the setting for my desire to occur in that experience with this other person? What are my limits? What are no-goes? What setting do I need in order to feel safe? And it can be as simple as saying that we can always stop the exercise, and just making that really explicit in the communication can already make such a difference in the experience level of safety.
Moving from the nonverbal, more somatic focused exercise to a verbal framework that we'll explore together, again in an exercise. First, a little bit of theoretical basis for the framework. So it's called desires, fears, and boundaries. And that's the order of expressing in this consent format. So desire, very straightforward, can be anything you want, like an impulse of what you want to do, what you want to experience. It can also be a need. So if you really need something, that also goes under desire. That's the first thing you would express. Then fear, in desires, fears, and boundaries. Fear speaks to something like the vulnerability in the desire or in the request that's happening in the communication. We'll get to it a little bit when we make an example. It's going to make, hopefully, gonna become more practical. And then we have boundary, and boundary meaning to frame the experience. We've shared what we want, what feels vulnerable around what we want, and then framing it with what we don't want to kind of map the territory of where we're going and also where we're not going to go.
Yeah, really amazing what happens when we practice those explicit tools. And so that's what I do. We usually do a little bit of a demo.
And if I would start, and we use the desires, fear, boundaries framework, I would start example, and I'm going to just feel into what I would actually like to do right now. And the encouragement is going to be the same for you in a few moments. Would be like, for example, I'm noticing, looking at you, I'm noticing your sweater looks really comfortable. I'm noticing an impulse to have a hug is coming on. So my desire is to, share a hug with you. And then I can elaborate also what kind of hug I want, like left to left, right to right, if I have details. So getting as specific as possible is really encouraged in this framework. And then I would go from, okay, I would like to share a hug, very simple, it seems, and then going to, okay, what's my fear or vulnerability around it? Okay, there could be the potential of, okay, I'm afraid that you might want a longer hug than I want, and I might get uncomfortable being so close, or I might be with my head against your rib cage because you're tall and that might hurt, or against your chest bone or something. So it might feel uncomfortable or not as expected. That might also be a vulnerability around it. And then my boundary is to frame the experience. So I'd like to share a hug. My vulnerability is that I'm afraid it might be too long, or I might feel uncomfortable. Is that I can share at any moment if I need us to disengage. That's my boundary. And also that the hands are just hugging the back. There's no hands going to my butt, for example. If that's also that, I could have shared that under vulnerability. If I'm afraid, maybe I've been touched in the past in uncomfortable ways, I could share this. And then you already know, okay, that's important to this person. So just framing, I'd like, maybe like a 10-second hug would be a really nice way to experience that.
And time for questions, and then the people go into groups of two and practice the consent communication framework, the desires, fears, boundaries, exploring either out of the moment what they want to do in the moment. We have had people getting really excited about giving each other a hug, or doing some eye gazing, or I've had people here holding a plank together, or exploring a body massage, things like that, just like we had in the workshop. A really beautiful example of some very nourishing massage and people being held. It can also be a situation from everyday life. So some people come with a very specific situation of being at the bar in a club, for example, and meeting someone. And then that's the moment where they feel overwhelmed in their everyday life. And then they can use this model in this workshop to practice that specific situation, or a conversation with a coworker that's really difficult, or with a boss that's really difficult, and they get to practice these tools for that situation here in the space, in that moment, with this framework of desires, fears, and boundaries. And then lastly, we integrate that. Again, we share thoughts and insights and experiences that came up with that, and then round off by reflecting a bit of what did we take from this experience with us, where can we practice in our everyday life, and how do we move on from here. I always encourage people to come again to these workshops. They're free, they're available.
Really great, Felipe, that you're encouraged Rocky to keep expressing what doesn't feel good. I heard you. You can also, the desires, fears, boundaries basically always keeps going. So if there's a new desire that comes up now, or a new fear that might come up, vulnerability, or a new boundary that you maybe weren't aware of at the beginning of the process, always just keeping the awareness, you have always access to these three components and can bring them into communication if desired or needed. Yeah, maybe just relax into those 20 seconds. Deep breaths. Connecting to a sense of supportedness, security, as you mentioned in your desire. Then you have a great challenge ahead. Gonna help you grow a lot. Yeah, can hear that that's probably very challenging, and at the same time, great that you have that awareness that it is challenging, and maybe you can bring 1% more consent of desires, fears, boundaries in your next few weeks, or 3%, and see what happens, and then deepening it. And how great that you already have the spaces in your personal relationships of feeling so comfortable with consent and adjusting and communicating. That's such a strong basis that many people don't have. So that's already great that you have it. And now it's about extending it into areas that are more challenging for a lot of people. So well done for the work already that you've done. Good. Any final shares, remarks? Anything you want to drop in the space before we close? Okay, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining. And
a lot of people are longing for connection and for belonging and for closeness, whether it's in a physical sense or maybe even more in an emotional sense. And Village is a really beautiful space for that. And the consent work can really help us facilitate a new way of relating to each other in a more conscious and explicit way, of meeting each other's needs and desires and boundaries, with love and care for each other. You know, a lot of us have grown up in systems and families where boundaries were not honored. There was just not an awareness around individual needs and desires, and there just maybe were a lot of challenges that didn't give the space for so much care and awareness of one's own and everyone's needs. Maybe it was more about fitting in or functioning or just making it through that time. And now, what we have here is a beautiful, vibrant community that says, hey, we want to honor you, we want to honor ourselves, and consent is just such a beautiful way of honoring each other and honoring ourselves, because basically, in essence, what we say is, you're valuable, you matter, your needs matter, and we're going to try really hard to see you and to meet your needs. And what more beautiful message of love and care can there be than saying, hey, I'm really willing to try and do my best to hear you and to hear me and to see how we can connect and support each other to grow and to flourish and to have a wonderful time together.